Hello, it's Jim Hutchins for the Jerusalem Connection Truth Report for this week. There's a minor controversy that's been started by a U.S. leftist Muslim activist named Linda Sarsour. And she's claimed that Jesus was a Palestinian. James Sinkinson has written an article about it, and I quote from him now. Jesus was a Palestinian of Nazareth and is described in the Quran as being a brown, copper-skinned with woolly hair. That's what she wrote on Twitter. Noting that it doesn't negate Jesus being a Jew because Palestinian is a nationality and not a religion. Of course, Sarsour's statement is full of contradictions, primarily since the Romans didn't change the name of this region from Judea to Palestine until about 135 AD. Long after the death of Jesus. Of course, there were no Arabs in the Holy Land until 650 AD. Indeed, there's no historical mention of a group of Arabs identified as Palestinians till late as the 1960s. 1960s, when people noted it as Palestinians. Indeed, the first Palestinians, both in ancient and modern times, were the Jews who lived in the Holy Land when it was originally called Palestine, and who in the early 20th century gave their institutions such names as the Palestine Symphony Orchestra, the Palestine Post, which is now the Jerusalem Post, and the Palestine Electric Company. But Sarsour is not the first Palestinian Arab partisan to force a Palestinian nationality on Jesus. Perhaps the most notable example is Yasser Arafat advisor Hanan Ashrawi, who told the Washington Jewish Week back in 2001 that, quote, Jesus was a Palestinian. More recently, William Barber II, speaking to the 2016 Democratic National Convention, referred to Jesus as the brown-skinned Palestinian Jew. In other words, a Palestinian national of Jewish faith. By all accounts, hardly an eyebrow was raised at this bizarre notion. In April 19, 2019, an op-ed in the New York Times by Eric Coppage revived the hoax, claiming that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, the most likely a Palestinian man with dark skin. While the New York Times, was forced to issue a correction, that didn't stop Muslim and U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, the Democrat from Minnesota, that's got a lot of visibility as a part of the squad these days, didn't stop her from retreating Coppage's falsehood just a few weeks later. This pattern of relentlessly hammering home a blatant falsehood is, of course, nothing new. Nazi propaganda expert Joseph Goebbels maintained that if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Tell a lie big enough, keep repeating it, people will believe it. Dr. Mordecai Kedar, senior lecturer at the Department of Arabic Culture in Bar Ilan University, explained Representative Omar, once again, member of the squad that's gotten so much visibility, and by extension Sarsour, use of the big lie by exerting, quote, Omar is stating that Jesus was a Palestinian because he was born in Palestine. She believes this to be true for anyone at any point in history, since Palestine has existed since the creation of the world. Palestine has not existed since the creation of the world. That's a blatant lie. Therefore, any person who's ever lived there, including all the people described in the Bible and the New Testament, were Palestinians. Hardly. This big lie isn't about Jesus. It's about the right of the Jewish people to a state in the Holy Land, and an effort to delegitimize Jewish self-determination. It is fundamentally anti-Semitic. Yes, indeed. While both Sarsour and Omar have long established their anti-Semitic bona fides, telling big lies about the Jewish people's inalienable rights to a state in Palestine is apparently no obstacle to many mainstream media figures and Palestinians who spread such lies without shame. Suffice it to say that those who believe history is sacred, that it enlightens our present and guides our future, they're obligated to rise up against those who trample the truth. A big lie can be only defeated by a louder, more powerful voice of the truth. Of the truth. It is true, Jesus was a Jew. It is true that salvation is of the Jews. John 4:22. It is true that Jesus said of himself, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes into the Father except through me. John 14:6. And that is the truth.